Thanks for joining us, guys. I'm Chris from GoProposal. We got Matt as well from AutoEntry here with us this morning. And yeah, today we're going to be talking a bit about the issues that accountants face and how hopefully we can use software and our app stack to reduce a lot of the pain points within the business, but ultimately to make more money for less work, which obviously I think that sounds a bit too good to be true, but making our accounting firm work for us instead of ending up stuck working for your firm and feeling like you're stuck in the day-to-day. So we've got, like I say, myself and Matt here. We've also got Alison, who will be joining us a little bit later. She's a GoProposal and AutoEntry user. Who's going to be sharing a bit of a sort of on-the-ground experience. I think, me and Matt, obviously in GoProposal and AutoEntry every day, but we're not using it. We're not on the front line. So it'd be really great to get some stories and experience from Alison. So we'll kick off with a bit of an introduction. Who are we? What do we know about GoProposal and AutoEntry, and how can we help you guys move your businesses forward? We'll go through those issues that are facing accountants and hopefully the solutions that are going to help us improve things. A bit of background on AutoEntry and GoProposal as well. Our philosophies and why we think we can help you guys. And I know we're going to have some AutoEntry users here who maybe never heard of GoProposal, some GoProposal users who've never heard of AutoEntry, and maybe people who've never heard of GoProposal or AutoEntry. So make sure everyone's on the same page there. Like I say, we've got Alison to share her story and her experiences, and we've also got plenty of time at the end for questions as well. So hopefully everyone can see the Q&A box in the Zoom window. If at any point you've got a question, whack it in there, and we'll make sure we get back to all of those at the end. So yeah, hopefully everyone can see that. Hopefully everyone can see and hear us as well. And yeah, looks like we've got the majority of people here now. So we'll get started. So firstly, Matt, I don't know if you want to just introduce yourself quickly and give us a bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome, guys. Great to be part of this webinar today. So my name's Matt. I form part of the customer success team here at AutoEntry for the UK and Irish market. Been with the business just over 3 years now, essentially supporting customers on a day-to-day basis, carrying out one-to-one training sessions and ensuring that any customers that are using AutoEntry are on a streamlined process to success.
Nice. And Alison, I don't know if we can bring you in just to sort of introduce yourself quickly before the main discussion later. There we go.
Yeah, hi, I'm Alison and I run Simply Balance Solutions Limited. We're a bookkeeping firm based near Portsmouth. We've been running since 2013 and we're a team of 4 now.
Awesome. Thanks, Alison. And yeah, I'm Chris, Client Success Manager at GoProposal. Obviously not an accountant, not a bookkeeper myself, but my wife is an accountant. So I hear firsthand a lot of the pains and things that accountants don't like doing on a day-to-day basis. So I feel like I'm maybe on the second line, not quite the front lines, but yeah, even before I started working for GoProposal, I've been exposed to some of those pain points. So yeah, a bit of insight. Even before my time here. But before we get into too much of a discussion around, I suppose the day-to-day use of specifically GoProposal and AutoEntry, just wanted to give a bit more context to, the issues that a lot of accountants face and the sort of overarching story here when it comes to automating things and using software to get over some of these pain points. And I think a massive thing for, I know a lot of the accountants and a lot of the bookkeepers that I speak to at least, and I'm sure it's the same for Matt and the guys at AutoEntry, is that accountants feel overworked and importantly undervalued by clients. The massive, I think, one of the main things that a lot of accountants and bookkeepers struggle with. And you can see here that from one of the surveys that Sage did, I think it was last year, 64% of accountants feel like their clients underestimate their value. I think there's sort of 4% in there that think clients greatly overestimate their value. I don't know if many people would sort of agree with that one, but obviously the vast majority there feeling like they're undervalued by their clients. And when it comes to, the specific services that people feel undervalued for, it's actually a fairly even split if you look at it across the board, again, apart from those 1% who think that none of their services are undervalued. But obviously the top three: general compliance work, tax work, advice and planning. But, even down to the bottom on the list there, bookkeeping, it's all well above 20% and sort of fairly spread out across all services that accountants and bookkeepers can offer. And even since back in, the 1930s, almost 100 years ago, there's always been that sort of drive for automation, for technology that can help us move away from certain pain points, certain sticking points, manual processes that we don't want to get bogged down in. And ultimately, accounts, you want to be servicing your clients and spending time helping your clients, not doing, that day-to-day manual admin work. And that's where, technology and more recently software can provide a solution and help us really move forward and move our clients' businesses forward as well. And this one sort of made me laugh as well with the lower percentages over at the far end. But I think there's a lot of your guys' clients, accountants' clients can potentially think that technology is the sole answer, and that maybe they don't need an accountant or they don't need a bookkeeper anymore, which I think we all know is definitely not the case. But the vast majority of people see the future of accounting to be very much a mix of obviously qualified professionals, accountants, bookkeepers, and digital services as well, whether that is software that your clients can be using, software that you can be using, software that you can both be using. And yeah, I think there's even 20% of people that say only accountants are necessary and we don't need any software, and 2% of people that think that only software is the answer. But yeah, the vast majority of people agreeing that a healthy mix of the two is definitely the way forward. And when we are moving forward to that sort of, I suppose, utopian perfect accountancy practice, asking people what's going to help us get there, what's the most important thing for us to be looking at when it comes to progressing our businesses and moving it forward. Investing in the latest technology is the top dog for the majority of people. Obviously, we've got things like offering a broader range of advisory services, but investing in technology is ultimately going to help us do potentially the same amount of work or less work whilst providing more for our clients. You can offer more advisory services and things like that, but ultimately it's going to be more work. It's going to be more hours, more time. So you might be making more money, but you're spending a lot more time doing the work as well. So this is where we can see that technology, and particularly more recently software and our app stack, can really help us to drive efficiencies and ultimately make more money as well. And in terms of the specific benefits when looking at technology, obviously technology is the most popular one on that previous slide. What are the benefits of technology? What are the benefits of software? And I think the top one is always going to be saving time, automating things. People say time is money, which is very true now more than ever. And yeah, saving time is that ultimate goal. Automation, freeing us up, like I say, to spend more time with our clients, more time doing meaningful work for our clients, rather than getting bogged down in that admin or those manual tasks that just take up so much time. And then along with that, we've got in there more accurate billing and higher profit margins as well. This is where we can really start to actively make more money, as well as saving time. And this is where, we can be doing, as the title of the webinar today suggests, be doing less work for actually more money, providing more value to our clients as well. So when it comes to software in particular, obviously we've gone from technology right down to software, and we'll go right down to GoProposal and AutoEntry. Obviously, software and apps, as the world of software and apps is a massive place now. I dread to think how many options there are out there for accountants in terms of pieces of software and specific apps. But how do we navigate that? How do we know what we need to be using and what's going to actually benefit our business in the best way? How do we actually go about automating and systemizing processes, and what can we expect there? Also, there's going to be some change to that, and how do we navigate that landscape as well? And importantly, how do we turn that app stack and that set of software that we're using into a profit center? Because as we said at the very start, if we make the software work for us, we can spend more time, working on our business rather than working in our business and getting stuck in that day to day. And we can hopefully be doing less, manual work while actually earning more money. So that's enough from me for the time being. I'll hand over to Matt now, because like I said at the start, we've got people here who've probably used AutoEntry but no idea what GoProposal is, people who've used GoProposal, no idea what AutoEntry is, and some people who are totally in the dark and got no idea what we're talking about. So Matt, what is AutoEntry, and what's the why should we be using it?
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. So just to give you a bit of background on AutoEntry, guys, I think I'll just start off on where and how AutoEntry is created. So our founder, Brendan Woods, had a conversation with an accountant who he worked with, and this accountant told him at the time how much time he's spending on manually entering data. So the idea came from this. The idea was that the accountant or the bookkeeper could outsource the laborious and monotonous work of data entry to automation, therefore freeing up business accountants, business owners, and bookkeepers to spend time doing other things that are more important to the business. The software at first was primarily only for bank statements, but several requests, several inputs from accountants, SMEs, and business owners said, okay, so why is it just bank statements? Why can we not process other documents such as purchase invoices through the software as well? This then led to AutoEntry being released in 2016. So with regards to the software itself, AutoEntry is a cloud-based software that aims to automate a lot of admin processes on a day-to-day basis. It extracts information from uploaded documents such as purchase invoices, supply statements, expenses, and bank statements, and converts them into a format where they can be coded and published directly across your accounting software. In relation to AutoEntry's philosophy, first of all, the main thing is minimizing manual data entry. We want to allow the user to spend time on more important things than having to manually type out the data into their accounts package. Secondly, we want to automate the process as much as possible. AutoEntry has the ability to automate and streamline the process from start to finish. You can upload a document. AutoEntry will automatically code these documents for you and seamlessly publish them to your accounting software. So again, saving time, which therefore saves money. And finally, is we do allow you users to share the workload. So primarily through the mobile app, we allow other users to upload their documents, whereby AutoEntry then does the small process of actually coding them and publishing to your accounting software. So it's a really good tool to use. And like I said, you can fully automate your day-to-day process with that manual data entry. And I say, last but not least, is AutoEntry's positioning. There's not a really defined position for AutoEntry. The reason I say that is it's very broad. We are used by accountants and bookkeepers, larger corporations and SMEs on a day-to-day basis. So as I said, we don't really have a defined position in the market itself. We're broad. We're available to all users, and we have a catalog of clients from the smallest one-man band businesses to the major accountants and bookkeeping firms.
Nice, like that. And yeah, I think that's the first time I've had a nice little sort of overview of AutoEntry myself. So I've not actually had a proper sort of formal run through of where AutoEntry came from and the history. So yeah, thanks for that. I've never had that before. And yeah, with GoProposal, we came from our founder, James Ashford, who some of you guys might well have seen on LinkedIn or read his books or whatever. However you might have come across him, he's all over LinkedIn and social media, it has to be said. But yeah, he was looking for an accountant for his previous business, and he ended up speaking to Paul Barnes, who's our co-founder, an accounting firm in Manchester. Had a meeting with him, really excited about it, buzzing to get started, and then he just didn't get a proposal for however long it was. He was walking out the meeting thinking, "Oh, I'm not signed up. What's going on?" Chasing him up, saying, I want to get going. How do I get started?" And obviously, the proposal maybe took a couple of days to pull together because it was a case of maybe getting the compliance team to pull a letter of engagement together, getting full agreement on the price, pulling the documents together manually, and then ultimately send it over to James. And from that, and from the sort of feedback that James gave to Paul and the conversations they had afterwards, they ended up building GoProposal. And there's sort of three key themes to GoProposal, and our sort of philosophies, what we aim to provide to accountants. And that is obviously the first point I've mentioned there, that the speed of getting a proposal and a letter of engagement to a client, being able to do it literally in the meeting, give them everything they need to make a decision, and even get, an on-the-spot acceptance if you want to, whilst removing all of that manual input from producing proposals and letters of engagement. We've also got the pricing aspect, so center of the screen there at the moment, in that the pricing is built into GoProposal so that you can price consistently across your client base and also manage fees over time, so you can reprice clients really easily as well, and also have anyone in your business pricing up clients in the same way. And we're also looking to improve the conversations that people have with their clients. So, using GoProposal, like say, live with clients to produce the documents there and then, really communicating the value of services, being able to handle objections, all that sort of stuff, which I know a lot of people have when it comes to the price their accountant is looking to charge. Never a smooth, very often not a smooth conversation. But then with the letter of engagement side of things, minimizing risk, systemising all of that, and making the whole thing as easy as possible. I've never spoken to someone who says, I absolutely love pulling my letters of engagement together, best part of my day. So just removing as much of the manual aspects from those processes as possible, and basically helping accountants and bookkeepers always charge for the work that they're doing and really realise their value. But obviously, that is just us with our little, I suppose, sales pitches or our little idyllic views of GoProposal and AutoEntry and how they should work, sort of on a day-to-day basis. But thankfully, we've got Alison here who actually uses GoProposal and AutoEntry and hopefully has a really sort of good understanding of how it works in practice. So, particularly, Alison, I know you've been sort of a very early adopter of both AutoEntry and GoProposal, one of the first users of both, I think, from our previous conversations. But yeah, what sort of, I know AutoEntry was the first of the two back in, I think it was back in 2016, wasn't it? Right at the very start. So what sort of, if you could think to your business way back then, what were the sort of problems that you were facing sort of on a day-to-day basis that ultimately apps like AutoEntry and GoProposal sort of help you solve? What were the key sort of pain points in the business at that time?
Initially, it was obviously I signed up with AutoEntry first, and it was, the classic, it was just me at the time and trying to get more efficient processing client paperwork. That is, I think, for nearly every bookkeeper and accountant, the biggest pain point is getting the paperwork from clients. So, at that time, that it solved the problem for me. I liked the pricing structure, that I could, buy as many credits as I needed, because it fluctuates through the year sometimes. Also, I'm not signing up to a massive monthly commitment that I may not actually use. And like anything, it's quite easy to be attracted to shiny new software, but you're not quite sure how it's actually going to solve the problem that you think it is. You get sold things and then it turns out it's not quite. But I found AutoEntry dead straightforward from the start. And I also wanted it to be able to extract bank statements because, at the time, bank feeds weren't quite as active. And also I find it quite useful. I've got some clients who just can't get bank feeds working. Some of the banks are less reliable. And then the other problem it has solved for us is we've got some clients who, they're care companies, for example, and they do all their invoicing in their own bespoke software. And we find it a much easier way to get all their sales into QuickBooks or Xero by they just copy us on all of their invoices when they go out straight into AutoEntry, and we push it over rather than doing monthly imports. It means everything's much more up to date and it's a much slicker process. And then with GoProposal, it was the usual pain point of, every time I had to try and price something, it was sticking my finger in the air, really. There was no consistency. Often felt like you were missing things maybe that you could offer as services to clients. And I just wanted something that took the pain out of pricing for clients, and it allowed me to do it very consistently, really easily. And, not something you ever expect to hear when you hear people come back and go, oh, that's brilliant, that system, when you're sending them a proposal. We all get endless documents with legalese in them, but clients, are quite impressed with how easy it is, and whether they read it or not is another matter. But, they're impressed with the ease and the clarity of what they get. And it certainly made my pricing more consistent and easier.
Yeah, and I think we had a conversation, probably the best part of a year ago, Alison, where I've actually stolen the phrase that you used in that, and I always use it with with our newer members, but that it sort of removes the emotion from the pricing as well, because I think people can take it quite personally when they're having those conversations with clients around price, and you almost see it as like, I've come up with this fee, and this is how much I sort of this is what I value myself at, and if someone says that's too expensive, it can feel a bit like, oh, well, you're saying that about me.
Imposter syndrome kicks in, and you're kind of like, oh, well, why am I charging that? Particularly if they then come back with, well, you're more expensive than I'm paying X or Y. And it's like, well, like I say, yeah, you're right. It's taking the emotion out of it. This is what we charge, and we don't negotiate on that, really.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned simplicity there as well as a big thing sort of for both AutoEntry and GoProposal. Is that sort of from a usage point of view, from a setup point of view, or just in making your day-to-day work simpler?
All three, really. I mean, I've not found, obviously quite a lot goes into setting up GoProposal in terms of making sure the pricing is right and you've got the services, but that's a business thing rather than a software issue. That's the time you've got to invest. Like anything, you have to invest time in setting up the new systems. AutoEntry is so easy to use, and we've had no clients really have issues with it. I mean, you often hear people say, if you can take a picture of your dinner and post it on Instagram, you can take a picture of a receipt. I mean, some don't seem to be able to, but the other thing we use it for is we're happy to accept paperwork from clients. We offer an orange envelope service where we send them addressed envelopes, and if they can't be bothered, don't want to, whatever the reason, we do add it. It is an extra line in our proposals, but they will post it to us and we'll scan it and do it that way. So, it's not all about, for us, it's not all about pushing it onto the end user, because there's loads of people who just don't want to. Yes, it sounds really straightforward, say just take a snap, but if they're coming out of B&Q and they're drinking their coffee and phoning the subby to make sure they're on the next job, the last thing they're thinking about is taking a picture of the receipt. But if they've got an envelope in the door pocket, they can just shove it in there and they know they've got it, and they send it to us and we deal with it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point as well, that I think that's something that can easily slip through the cracks, where you could end up doing that sort of work and manually uploading those for client without charging for it. I think that's where, going back to the whole sort of theme of the webinar, where you can make sure that you're making more money, you can make sure that you're charging for that sort of stuff, and that it isn't, like say, falling through the cracks.
Yeah.
And I know, again, in our sort of previous conversations, that you were reluctant to call yourself an early adopter of software, despite the fact you were sort of one of the first users of both AutoEntry and GoProposal. But do you think there's anything sort of in the way that you run your business, or those pain points that you did have back in 2016 that push you in the direction of like taking on these new things? Because I think especially when there's probably not much out there in terms of reviews of new pieces of software, it can be quite a daunting thing to sort of take the jump.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember where I discovered AutoEntry. I know I came across GoProposal at QuickBooks Connect, but for me, some of it's around the ethics. I can't think of another word to put it, of the organisation. I've always felt both have their customers, i.e. the bookkeepers in my case, at heart, rather than it being about telling us how to run our businesses and how to do things. This is the way you should do it. We're the only solution. It has always felt more collaborative. And so that's something I like and appreciate in any of my software suppliers, because we all run our businesses differently. Yes, there's best practices, but it's about what's the right fit for you. And so, that's partly what I'm looking for when I'm, people buy from people. And just because it's a piece of software, it doesn't make it any less true. So that's, part of it. Am I an early adopter? I don't know. I mean, I think I can, like anyone, be inclined to find a nice, shiny bit of software. But I think when it was only me to start with, it has always been about finding those efficiencies and what works best for me as a business, but also what I feel works best for my clients. And so we don't have a one size fits all approach to it, other than our pricing with GoProposal. But we do, try and find ways of working that suit both sides of the relationship. And, we found that these two pieces of software have fitted well in that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well. It's not just about you sort of finding efficiencies, it's about your client's experience as well. And I think obviously AutoEntry is making their lives so much easier when it comes to capturing all their receipts, their information. And then even with GoProposal, if you're increasing someone's fee, you're ultimately doing it so that you can spend the time and provide them with that level of service. It's not like you're just trying to rinse them and increase their fee for no reason. It's ultimately so you can serve them to a higher standard as well. So that's a great point about it not just being about your business, but their business as well.
No, it's also being realistic. With the best will in the world, when you price something, you tell them you're going to use something like AutoEntry, they get all very excited and swear they're going to send you every document that you ever need, and it's all going to be scanned and uploaded. And then, 3 months later, it's a week to the VAT return, and you're sending them endless requests. And that's where it opens up another discussion about, well, look, the reality is you're not doing it. So what can we do to make that process easier? Is it we manage an accounts email for you? Is it we get it posted? We could collect it, but, it allows you to have those conversations, because we all go into, new relationships with business things with, thinking it's all going to be easy. And then, reality kicks in and they're still not doing what they need to do.
And with, again, going back to the, I suppose the early adopter phrase that I keep throwing out there, but with sort of the landscape of software and apps that I know I mentioned before, it's obviously massive these days. How do you go about doing that now? Is it something you're still sort of on the lookout for? I know that we obviously saw each other at an event last week or whenever it was, so you're obviously still sort of out there looking at these new things. Is it something you're always looking at improving and finding those efficiencies, or are you sort of happy with what you've got currently? What's the sort of setup going forward?
It's always interesting to hear developments from all the different softwares you work with, and there's always gaps in the system, and something new will come along. And it's about, businesses evolve. So, my business started off with me. I've got 2 members of staff now and another one starting in September. So, what worked in 2013, 14, 15 doesn't work now. So some of it's about that evolution of a business, evolution of your client relationships, or you get a new client and you need to find something that stops that gap. So, I like to keep my ear to the ground, try not to sign up for every bit of software that comes along. I take recommendations. I've got a little informal mastermind with some other bookkeepers. We talk about what we're using, and we don't all use the same tech stack, so you can kind of bounce ideas off each other if you're having an issue. Things like XeroCon or QuickBooks Connect, different Facebook groups. I always find it interesting just what people are using and what problems it's solving for them. Might not be an issue I've got now, but it doesn't mean I won't in 2 years' time.
Yeah, and it's really interesting what you were just saying there as well, about obviously your team growing and your sort of business getting bigger. And I think that's a massive area where software can help as well. Having that systemization, that standardization, so that it's not just, oh, I've got this manual process that I know in my head and I can do every day and I'm really good at it. But then you try and teach the rest of the team to do that, and they've got no idea what you're going on about. If you've got a piece of software that can, everyone can be collecting that information in exactly the same way, or processing that information in exactly the same way, or pricing up clients in exactly the same way, whatever that is. I think that's a massive thing as well, just having that confidence in the process and that standardization, so you can roll that out across your entire business.
Yeah, that's something I'm working on at the moment, is that improving processes, because going back to the theme of this, I don't always want to increase staff when we've got a bottleneck. A lot of the time you can work more efficiently to get the same, to get more with the same resource. Yeah,
definitely. I think one of the things we always talk about is sort of like optimizing what you've got before you expand it, because if you've got the wrong processes in place and you're trying to spread those out across a wider team, it's probably going to be more pain than getting all those systems in place before you expand it. So I think it's a massive area that can help people there. And with both sort of AutoEntry and GoProposal, obviously they're not free. You do have to pay for them. When it comes to sort of justifying that cost and the return on investment, what what does that look like for you? Is it something you track, or is it just something you've got a confidence in that it's saving you the time, making you the money? What's your sort of approach to that?
I know I'm supposed to say I work it out and track it, but I haven't yet. I know GoProposal. I know my first proposal I did with GoProposal that I charged a lot more than I would have done otherwise, because I would have worked to figure out and then lost confidence in that figure and kind of gone in a bit, lower or whatever. So, and then, with scope creep. So I know it, I get a lot of peace of mind from pricing with GoProposal, so that's worth its weight in gold. And then when it comes to AutoEntry, I know we save time, but we do bill. There is a line in all our proposals that they're billed in bands depending on, how many credits they're using, and on an average over sort of a 3-month period. So we do, build the cost in. So they do see it as a line on their proposal that they're using AutoEntry. So we know we're covering the cost. And then obviously there is the time saving. There's also the accuracy saving. One of the other things I get by using AutoEntry is, and one of the ways I often sell it to clients is by saying, when we've had VAT inspections, it's been so easy because the documents are all attached in the software. So when they say, well, what's this? We want to look at it. It takes us seconds to find it, rather than, I did do one VAT inspection with a client who didn't do that. And, we had something like, 100 full arch files that we were having to rummage through to find the bits of paper. So the fact it's all sort of stored centrally and easily, year end with accountants, we can say the same if they want paperwork. We know it's there. So it saves time in that way as well. And it gives a peace of mind to the clients that everything's there. So should HMRC come along, we know it's there. We're not going to have to scrabble through 6 years worth of paperwork.
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing that, again, I know you've mentioned when we've spoken in the past, that sort of confidence, having confidence that everything you've got is what it needs to be, and that if someone does come knocking on the door asking about something, you're not thinking, have I done this right? That the system and the process takes care of it. And again, obviously with the pricing and that aspect of GoProposal, just having that, I think you said, Len, sort of not second guessing yourself. I know I've spoken to people where they can almost talk themselves out of a price that they've come up with for a client before the meeting's even happened. Just assuming that someone's going to tell you it's too expensive, so you put it down before you've even spoken to them. So yeah, I think that confidence is a massive thing. I think you said, mentioned sort of imposter syndrome before, and it can obviously be a massive thing for people. And in terms of actually sort of using this software for the first time and using AutoEntry, using GoProposal for the first time, obviously I imagine it's quite a big change in your sort of processes, your day-to-day, the way you work potentially. How do you manage that? How do you handle that? Because whether it's just the time you have to take out to set up a new piece of software, or the actual material changes to the process, what is that something you have to accept, or how do you manage that?
You have to accept that if you don't put the time in, you're not going to get the most out of it. I mean, I still know that there are things we could do in AutoEntry to speed time up and things, and that's something that we're working on at the moment. It's quite difficult with some things to know where to stop with the automation. So you can auto publish a lot of things in AutoEntry, but you've got to be quite careful what you pick to auto publish, because Amazon could be literally anything. It could be tea and coffee for the office, it could be a computer, it could be books, so it could be so many things that it's that balance between automating, but because you get the autofill with previous, it allows us to get some consistency. And the member of staff who's starting in September is actually going to be an apprentice, and it's where we're going to start, is that. So they start to learn the background of all of what the bookkeeping entries are. And it's a good place for them to start with that, because the software helps you to an extent, but you do have to apply knowledge. And so, there's always time. It's me making sure I've got time to train the staff. If webinars come out on updates or anything, I always make sure all of them see it. And the latest member of staff who started the admin, she's going to be taking on a lot of the sort of stuff to do with GoProposal and getting the quarterly reprices done and things, because I know it's the time block is me. I'm not doing them. So, you know, and it allowed, because it's such an easy piece of software to use, once they've done the training, I know they can go and do it.
Yeah, and I think particularly with GoProposal, just what you're saying there is when I speak to our users, it's a massive thing for people, you know, being able to have literally anyone in the team go in and recalibrate fees really easily, make sure that you are always charging for the work you're doing. And I know the increase in their monthly revenue and monthly fees that people can see just from doing that, not even doing any more work, just literally making sure you're charging for the scope of work that you're providing. It's crazy, really, how much it can make a difference. And like you say, it's such a simple thing, but as you know, business owners or senior members of the team, you're the bottleneck, aren't you? It's sort of removing that bottleneck to free up everyone in the team to be able to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know it's something you sort of mentioned a couple of times with sort of initially getting the clients to use the software, particularly with AutoEntry, when it's obviously them that's actually they're actually using it. Do you have a sort of particular approach for, I suppose, selling that to clients? Is it part of your offering that you're saving them time, making their lives easier, or is it just something, you know, if you work with us, you use AutoEntry to do this?
No, I mean, the biggest sell is saving them time. Some of them, it's the sell of, you know, I've had several that are just so excited that they can get rid of the box files of paperwork going forwards. You know, if you're a small business owner and working from home, you don't want to be cluttering up a room with boxes of paperwork and things. So, you know, we do discuss it with them. We've had some push back and say, well, I can do that in the software or whatever. And what we usually do is let them do that for a bit and then show them it really isn't as good as it could be. And, you know, most of them don't even know something like that exists. So their minds are slightly blown that they can do that. You know, we help them set up auto forward rules in their emails so that, you know, they don't have to think about that aspect of it. And we also use it in a slightly unusual way with one client, AutoEntry, in that they deal a lot with pro formas. And of course, we can't use the pro formas for VAT purposes. So we use it as a storage and rename. So we know we've got all the paperwork, but it's just not what we can use for VAT. So it allows us to kind of keep track of what we've got and still need, but we need the legitimate paperwork for, rather than sort of the initial sales order or the pro forma. So we rename the documents within AutoEntry to show what they are, and then they're just sitting in the process panel, and then we use that to kind of nudge the clients that they need to get us the paperwork.
Nice. And something you just mentioned then around, and I know you mentioned it before, around having like the option for people to either send in the paperwork, you know, they don't have to use AutoEntry themselves. I think that's sort of like a nice combination of the two, almost, in that when you're first quoting a client with GoProposal, you can say, well, you know, we can do that manually for you, but we're going to charge you for it, or you can do it and it's, you know, your overall fee might potentially even be cheaper. So do you find that works quite well from when you're sort of first engaging those clients, that you can almost show them that they're going to have to pay for any of that manual work that they don't want to do?
Yeah, and we find with some of our clients who are sort of, you know, more traditional businesses, for want of a better word, there is this massive rush to digitization, and it's necessary, but it also forgets that not everybody else wants to jump on the bandwagon. And so quite a lot of people are quite happy for it to go, yeah, you know, just take that away. I don't want to do it. I'm not interested. And so we find having those discussions, it reminds us to have the discussion and to offer the options.
Yeah.
You know, half the reason they're coming to a bookkeeper or an accountant is they don't want to be doing it themselves. Even what seems really simple, taking a few snaps, is just more than they're bothered about. They want to finish work and go down the pub or play football or, you know, go and do another job. They don't, even that little bit just is more than they're interested in. Yeah,
I think particularly sort of sole traders and small business owners, they might be spending, you know, their Saturday morning sorting out all the paperwork or something, and they're missing their kids playing football or something. It sounds daft, but if you guys can free up that time and they have to pay a little bit more a month for the privilege of having their full weekend back, it's almost a no-brainer to be able to sort of sell it in that way as well.
Yeah. We have had some clients come to us because their partners are sick of dealing with the paperwork, because that's what seems to happen as well. You know, the poor partner is left dealing with it at quarter end or weekend or whatever it is, and they don't want to be doing, they're not getting paid for it. So, we've had that where some clients, it's actually the partner that's sort of said, right, you need to sort this out.
Maybe that's an angle for GoProposal. We can market to
marriage
partners so they can price it up and charge them for it.
Yeah.
And are there any other sort of thinking specifically of AutoEntry this time? Any other sort of specific ways of working? And I think when we've spoken previously, you'd mentioned like they can even like add notes to receipts and stuff, so that they can just literally scribble on it, upload it, and you've got everything you need and more like context or anything like that. Is there any other benefits like that that make your life easier as well?
Yeah, like as you mentioned there, we do say to clients, scribble on the receipt, because we can see that. So, it might be that some of the items on the receipt are personal and some are business, or, we don't know if that was a meal for the staff or a client meal. So, if people scribble notes on it, we can see that. And, as I said in a LinkedIn post yesterday, bear in mind, we can also see what else is in the image. So we don't need to see certain things. But, it's that makes life easier, it saves some of those messaging backwards and forwards. What's this? What's that? It's an education process. We have to remind them we don't want the credit card slip. We want the actual receipt. Otherwise, we can't claim the VAT. But, it's easy. I like AutoEntry for the simplicity. I don't have to tell it if it's a multi-page document or if it's many documents in one. I can just drag and drop it and it'll deal with it. I still use it for bank statements. Like I said, we use it for the sales for some. And then we do have some that we use it for the supplier statement cross-checking as well. And it is the simplicity. And I know some people prefer a fixed fee on what they're using, but the usage flexes through the year, so it kind of evens itself out. And as we pass it on, I've not had any clients push back on that. End of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well around it, like the education piece of it. There's almost that, particularly with new clients or clients that are moving onto these systems for the first time, where you really sort of do have to educate them, but doing that initially can help so much down the line, whether it is the process of making sure they add notes to receipts for the upload to AutoEntry, or even with GoProposal, being able to see where the fee comes from, so they know, okay, well, my bookkeeping fee is based on my number of transactions or whatever it might be, and then if there is to be a fee increase in the future, they know where it's come from. It's not just, oh, why have you put my fee up?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that, yes, particularly when the client's using the software with AutoEntry, a massively important point is getting that education right, rather than just leaving them in the dark. I think it always makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and everyone always, the sort of stereotype is that accountants are just fleecing you. And as we're moving into this, another economic turbulent time, I think the more transparent, people are going to have to work harder, potentially for less if they're not doing it right. So, passing efficiencies on to clients, if we can save them every penny in VAT that we can, but if they're not giving us the right paperwork, they're literally handing money away. So, it's using those kind of incentives to educate them into why it's important. It's not just us being a pain. There is a benefit to them.
Yeah. And with that in mind, is there anything specifically that you're looking at for sort of obviously the changes with MTD that are coming up over the next, whenever it is that they've decided that it is going to be? But is there anything with sort of your efficiencies, your software and your app stack that you're sort of using to mitigate the issues that might come up there?
Well, I envisage AutoEntry being a big part of it, because the biggest challenge is going to be getting the paperwork in a timely manner. And there's also going to be a big mindset shift for people who've paid for stuff once a year to do their accounts. And not only are they going to have to pay for it monthly, they're going to have to pay more, because they're going to see it as the same amount of work, because, you're just doing one tax year's worth of work, but it's not, because we're doing quarterly returns, processing stuff. So, there's going to be a big challenge around that. So, we've got to make sure we don't undervalue what we're providing to people, because the instinct would be to go, oh, well, I charge that for a self-assessment, I'll divide it by 12. There you go. Well, it's not, is it? It's a different way of working. It's more returns. there's going to be more chasing auto entry. I've got, let's face it, the clients are all going to upload everything on the first day after the quarter ends, not during the 3 months, unless you've worked really hard to educate them in the next 12, 14 months, which is where we're trying to get. So we haven't finalised our app stack, but I know AutoEntry and GoProposal are part of it. The bit I haven't decided is which software we're going to use to submit, because nobody's really come up with anything fantastic yet.
I think just going back to what we were saying about the sort of education piece, like I say, that's going to become even more important, I think, isn't it? And I think setting expectations as well, even if it's, like I say, deadlines, but I suppose even with that, you could use GoProposal to make it clear that they need to charge if they're going to turn up with it late, or if they're going to not provide it on time, that it's it's not going to fly potentially. So I think that's a massively important thing across the board with the education side of things. Just aware of the time as well. I'm going to make sure we get through the questions. I can see a couple have come in there. If I can navigate Zoom, which hopefully I can. There we go. Brilliant. So we've got one from Kirstine. It'd be interesting to hear Alison's thoughts on engagement letters if she uses this side of GoProposal. I understand that it's not something she wishes to discuss. But hopefully she's not that distraught with her engagement letter system. But yeah, what is your process? Because obviously GoProposal can handle engagement letters and deal with that side of things. What's your process around that?
We do use Oversuite. Before I had my own engagement letter that I'd taken from the IAB, but I'd actually had someone who's a legal expert make it more robust. But it was quite a manual process, going in, making sure the client name's in the right place and all of those things. And then if you had to update it, and you're never quite sure whether it needs updating or not. So yeah, we do use Oversuite. It has made life a lot easier. Again, it goes back to peace of mind and time saving, that it's all just done. You've got your disengagement letter if you need it in the system. So yeah, I would personally recommend using it. But
just for anyone who doesn't know what Oversuite is, that is sort of a part of GoProposal which builds you a full library of engagement letters, keeps them all up to date for you. It's really good, even if I do say some, I can't say if I do say so myself, not like I did it, but it's our smart engagement letters, as we call them. And yeah, I know a massive thing that I know Alison's just said, and the feedback I get there is peace of mind, because people don't become bookkeepers or accountants to deal with like the legal side of things. So you can have that handled for you. Like I say, it's a nice peace of mind. Another one from Kirstine, I think. Most of my clients use Sage, however, some use Xero and QuickBooks. Is AutoEntry compatible with these cloud accounting software packages too? So, if that's one for Matt, or if Alison knows is there any experience?
Either or. From my perspective, guys, yeah, it's compatible with the likes of Sage, Xero, QuickBooks. There's a multitude of accounting packages AutoEntry is compatible with. On the other hand, there obviously are some that it isn't compatible with, but we do combat that by allowing the user to download the data to, say, specific Excel spreadsheets, which can then be imported into your accounting software. So again, we do cater for both sides of the customer base.
Yes, and Alison, can you
I use
any experience? Just make sure.
I use it with Xero and QuickBooks. So
yeah, I know you said you'd use it for both. So
yeah, so they work. It works slightly differently. Some of the bits of I use it with Free Agent as well, slightly differently, but that's more to do with the softwares than AutoEntry. I'd imagine it's the API or something that they're not allowed to do.
Just realised I'm going through the questions in reverse order as well, and I'm just getting to some when Suki's unfortunately said that have to leave, but this will be recorded anyway, so we'll still answer them. Does GoProposal suggest a pricing structure? Yeah, so the way GoProposal works is no matter how you charge currently, if you charge an hourly rate or the classic finger in the air approach, just dependent on the client you're dealing with. When you first set up GoProposal, we have what we call our pricing wizard. Answer a few questions about your firm and the way that you price your services, and it'll populate the system with a full list of services, variables, calculation, pricing. So you can just go out that afternoon then and price up a client if you wanted to. You might want to check it first just to make sure it's it's worked. But yeah, you're not expected to go and build it all out from scratch and work out your pricing, spending days and days and days doing it. Do as much as the heavy lifting as we can for you there. Does GoProposal link to Companies House in the same way as Accountancy Manager? We don't directly integrate with Companies House, but we do directly integrate with Accountancy Manager. So there is the link between the two there. And then potentially one for you, Matt. Is there a full demo of AutoEntry? What's the best way for people to get a full demo? I'm sure we'll be sending out our links and what have you after this, but what's the best way for someone to get up to speed with AutoEntry?
Yeah, really good question. We have a couple of options. So within AutoEntry's website, you do have access to the Help Center. So the Help Center has various different training articles, as well as a full training video and demonstration of AutoEntry. You can also contact the customer success team as well for a live one-to-one training session, completely free of charge. And last but not least, we do hold weekly webinars as well. All of the information can indeed be found on the AutoEntry.com website.
Awesome. And yeah, very much the same with GoProposal. If anyone wants sort of a full demo, we can book you onto a demo. We've got our instant recorded demo. We've got full 30-day free trial as well. So you can jump in, run your pricing wizard, get pricing, run the Oversuite wizard, get some brand new engagement letters, download them all and never speak to us again if you want. But yeah, hopefully you won't do that. Hopefully you'll at least give us a go. And then the last one, which was actually the first question. So sorry, Patrick, if you've been waiting for best part of 50 minutes. I went through them in the wrong order. I've been a GoProposal user for several years, also a Zero user, and been using Dext for several years. No problems, but it has become expensive. HubDoc comes free with Zero. Why should I consider moving to AutoEntry, which is not free? Great question from from Patrick. What would putting Matt on the spot there a bit, but maybe even Alison can weigh in on
I have used HubDoc. And I would rather pay for something than use HubDoc.
I like the dramatic pause after before you said that.
I mean, I don't know, maybe it's improved since I last used it, but me and the team just found it far too clunky in comparison to AutoEntry, and we just got fed up with it, so don't use it.
Yeah, and even just to carry on what Alison said there, like from my perspective, I've never been in a position where I want to try and sell something. I just like to talk about what AutoEntry can do. So, like I said earlier, AutoEntry's main aim is to make businesses' lives easier. So we can automate the whole process from A to B. We have a specific function within AutoEntry as well, called the document fetching feature that allows you to essentially link directly to a supplier's account. AutoEntry will then fetch that data, process it through the software, code, and publish it directly to your accounting package. So again, there's a multitude of features within AutoEntry that are great features, but for me, the main importance on what AutoEntry does is saves you time and saves you money whilst using the software.
We had another point from Kirsty there saying she loves Oversuite too. So yeah, thanks for that. Not a question, but I'll definitely read that one out. One from Tony, just a couple left. Does AutoEntry work with desktop versions of Sage or just the cloud-based versions?
Yeah, really good question again. Yeah, of course, AutoEntry does work with the desktop versions of Sage as well as other accounting packages. And of course, it does integrate with cloud-based accounting solutions as well.
Awesome. And then I think the last one, unless anyone's got any last questions to fire in. We have just another one. When will GoProposal integrate with Cresco? Great question, Helen. I know a couple of people have asked me about that. It's not on our roadmap currently. Our developers have been putting everything into our AML solution, which finally gets released next week. A little bit of a plug for that. But yeah, it's not on our roadmap currently. We do have our Ideas Hub though. So if you want to vote for that in our Ideas Hub, then it'll bump it up the list for you. And then potentially the last one again from Angela, unless someone else jumps in. With document fetching, how do you get around needing a code for two-step authorization in order to access, say, a Vodafone account?
Yeah, again, really good question. This would probably be more so aimed at the development team. But with regards to setting up supplier accounts with document fetching that have the need of the two-step authentication or authorization, there is a specific setting within AutoEntry that allows you to overcome that roadblock. I'd love to go into more detail, but again, that is probably a question more so for the development team, how that has been created, how the actual workaround has been put in place for AutoEntry. But like I said, I do know for a fact that it is possible to connect to supplier accounts that do require the two-step authentication.
Chris.
Sorry, I've just realized we got some questions in the chat as well, haven't we? I don't know why Zoom has both chat and Q&A, but yeah, let me answer these ones. Sorry, Bernie, I know you've answered a couple and it sounded like I was just totally ignoring you then. So it sounds like this first one might be for Alison. Do you allow them to WhatsApp documents and are you then able to forward those to AutoEntry? That's an interesting question. Clients seem to love WhatsApp.
Well, I mean, they do, but if they can take a picture of it in WhatsApp, they can open up the app and take the picture direct into AutoEntry. I mean, we communicate on WhatsApp with our clients, but I don't know, it's got end to end, but it's not exactly the safest place or the most efficient place to store documentation. So, you know, in that case, we would educate them that really they just need to do exactly the same thing, but open up the AutoEntry app instead and take the picture in there. And if I answer his other question for the different companies, they have different AutoEntry addresses and accounts. So, you know, if they've got multiple companies, they would have access to multiple companies in the app, and they just need to select which company they're uploading for or use that specific email address. I mean, sometimes we do have it, they send it to the wrong one, and it's super easy in AutoEntry to quickly grab a PDF of the image and then drag and drop it into the right company if they have uploaded it into the wrong place. Another comment that goes with that is sometimes what we need to do is we don't know, so what it's for or whatever, we'll create a PDF, drop it onto an email and send it to a client to ask them questions about it. So it does make the communication with the clients really good.
And I think you'd answered one of Bernie's questions in the chat as well, but I think you'd only sent it to the panelists. So
yeah, that's what he asked about HubDoc and why I think it's clunky.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's the
we found that it was taking us more time to enter data. It wasn't reading stuff very well. It wasn't even picking up whether stuff was invoices or credit notes. Now, it might have been to do with the settings, but we didn't find it very intuitive, and it was actually taking us more time to deal with stuff in there. So we just don't use it.
And then we have had a couple more questions as well, which we might have to call the last ones. Getting on towards the end of the time now. But Angela, does AutoEntry work with Sage 50? I don't know if that was answered before or.
That's specifically for Sage 50C. So to answer your question there, Angela, yes, it does indeed. There are certain limitations with the integration with Sage 50C, but for the likes of processing, say, bank statements and purchase invoice, sales invoice, and so on, it does indeed integrate and connect with Sage 50C.
Brilliant. And the last one, I think we're going to time this absolutely bang on. Alison, does the CRM you use integrate with GoProposal, and how does that help your business?
No, it doesn't, because we use Pixie. You can integrate it via Zapier, but that hurts my brain too much to try and figure out. Eventually that is on my roadmap to sort of get that running via Zapier, and that will make it easier, but which would, then all the services would automatically be triggered in Pixie. But at the moment, my office administrator deals with that, and we don't find it takes us too long at the minute. So,
and then a follow up from Millie just asking if you find Pixie worth using.
Well, yes, is the short answer, but
get someone from Pixie on next time.
Yeah, that'll be the next one.
And then hopefully this probably is going to have to be the final question. Just asking, what benefits do we get engaging with the customer success team at AutoEntry Matt, and what's the best way for someone to get in touch with the team at AutoEntry?
Yeah, so some of the benefits of AutoEntry's customer success team is that we essentially walk the customer all the way through the process, through the start when they're beginning to use the software, whether it be through onboarding sessions. We're always in contact with customers doing weekly and monthly check-ins. We're here to advise on the best practice of using AutoEntry, and also helping you and the customers decide what's the best suited subscription package. In relation to contacting the AutoEntry customer success team, we do have a dedicated email address, which is info@autoentry.com. So any questions that you guys may have on a daily basis, whether it be in relation to subscriptions or simply just using the software, please feel free to drop a quick message to that email address. We'd be more than happy to help.
And yeah, very much the same just from the GoProposal side as well. When people sign up, we want to make sure that they achieve specifically what they want with GoProposal, whether it's repricing all their clients, getting their first lot of engagement letters properly set up so they can sleep at night, whatever it is. We want to help you reach that specific goal. So yeah, very much the same. We're always keen to help out if anyone does want to jump on a free trial. But I think that nicely takes us up to 11 o'clock by the looks of it. Pretty bang on. So yeah, we'll let everyone go. Thanks for joining, everyone. Hopefully you found that interesting. Thanks for all the questions as well. Some really great questions, really great questions at the end there. And yeah, thanks to Matt and specifically Alison for that sort of on the ground frontline experience of GoPros and AutoEntry. Obviously, there was a lot of interest there at the end. So yeah, hopefully you've been able to answer people's questions, give people a good insight there. And yeah, thanks, Kirsty. Yeah, thanks a lot for your time. So if anyone does have any follow-up questions or anything at all, I think you've probably been bombarded by me with emails sort of in the lead up to the webinar. So any questions for anyone afterwards, feel free to direct them to me and I can pass them on, make sure you get pointed in the right direction. And I'm sure we'll be following up with our links for free trials, demos, and all that sort of good stuff as well afterwards. So yeah, thanks very much, everyone. We'll let you go. Any final words from Matt, from Alison?
Just to me, just again, thanks for all attending, guys. Like I said, any questions that you have in relation to AutoEntry, please don't hesitate to shout out. Again, use the email address and mention my name. I'll be more than happy to speak to anyone.
Yeah, and well, I hope people found it useful. And if people, do want any quick chat, haven't got hours obviously, but I'm always happy to have a quick chat with people about what we found and why we use what we use.
Awesome. Make sure you charge him for that and GoProposal, Alison, if
I will
be. Awesome. Well, thanks very much, guys. Yeah, we'll let you all go now. Have a great rest of your Friday. It's pretty miserable here, but yeah, have a great weekend, everyone, and thanks for joining.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.